All right, Alchemy Event 2012, Irvine. Oh God, my tongue. Yeah. Okay, so everybody, last but definitely not least, we have Jerry Avalos, my colleague and trusted friend, Project Camelot. Jerry has contributed on so many levels. It's kind of hard to express in like a quick little intro here. I mean, this guy, you know, he's hands-on. If you're like walking around, you know, the punch bowl, so to speak, with this guy, well, he's going to call you the turd in a punch bowl. Because, I mean, he's not afraid to call you out. And this goes for the dreaming, too, I know for sure. Because I'm like, oh, dude, I had this dream the other night, and I was like, I just can't figure it out. And I'm like so tired. And here is like, in a matter of like, I mean, 2 minutes, depending on the length of the dream, I guess. It's like, well, here's the thing. You have to correct that. You have to look at that entanglement with that. And it's like, and I'm like, you know what? It's weird, but that actually makes sense. I mean, any other person listening wouldn't have been able to get any of that. Like, what? So I'm just going to present to you my personal in-house genius, Jerry Avalos, everybody.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you. That was a huge intro there. No pressure, right? So yeah, and it actually just quick remark, it has been a privilege and honor to work with Project Camelot. Like many of you out here, I was a fan too of them for years, and now being on the inside, so to speak, helping out, seeing how things really go, it's an amazing thing. And being with them actually has helped me hone what I'm going to talk to you right now, which is how to make $1 million with multi-level marketing. No, I was kidding. I'm just kidding. We get enough of that, right? Either way, yes, I'm here to talk about lucid dreaming, out-of-body experiences, and I have a laser. This is awesome. I have a laser, out-of-body experiences, and astral projections. I like props. I like to keep things lively. So I'm going to try to do my best here. And so, especially with this nebulous subject, because you hear the term lucid dreaming from time to time, you hear out-of-body experience, astral projection, and you wonder, what's the difference? And this is, for this talk, this is the context I'm going to be putting them all in, because ultimately they all amount to consciously interacting with and or remembering experiences in an alternate or parallel reality. Because no matter how you break it down, you know, whether you're investigating your own mind, body, and spirit, or you're interacting with other people telepathically, because this is something else that we can do and do actually do in the astrals while we're sleeping. This does tie into the human body resonance that Steve was talking about earlier as well, and this is part of information exchange. So to effectively really do this, we have to know what information we're actually exchanging. Okay, what is that? Okay, and when we think about what is lucid dream, what is it to dream? Because how many in here have experienced a lucid dream? A show of hands, all right. So you all have experienced it. Who in here has trouble dreaming in general? Anyone in here have trouble dreaming? Okay, and yes, okay. And remembering, how about that? How many people have trouble remembering? Okay, I'm going to address all of these. I'm going to address that, and I'm also going to give an example of how to start to train your body and your web of associations, as I call it, to put yourself in a conductive state for lucid dreaming, astral travel, out-of-body experiences. So, with that being said, I'm going to move on to my next slide, which is the first technique, which has to do with understanding the dream symbology that we create with our own internal lexicon of our understanding of the universe. So my point of consciousness is going to be different from anyone else's in this room, in this existence, including if I had a clone next to me. Because to be identified as a clone on a conceptual level, that's differentiating. So we have two different parts. So either way, it all works down to that web of associations that I was just talking about, which has to do with how our subconscious communicates to our conscious mind. And I'm sure there's so many healers in here practicing all kinds of modalities, and we know we're working with the subconscious. What are we looking at? We're looking at traumas and such associated with experiences or preferences or compulsions. And so we're all talking about the same things. Think about this too in relation to intuition and practically applying it. What do we say? Oh wait, I was thinking about my friend and then they called me. Wow. You know, that's an associative memory. You had a kinesthetic associative memory. You felt this person calling. It's the same realm that you're navigating in the lucid dream. So, to effectively navigate, you have to know your body first. You have to know who you are. Why your web of associations creates the symbolism that's coming to you. Why we're even put in the out-of-body experience that places you in the room with those people happening in quote-unquote real time. Well, it has to do with your associations. So how do we start looking into that? We start thinking about everything in our day and how we think about it. So be hyper-aware of your day is what I like to call it. So instead of just looking at your hand, as some of the common techniques are, let's go beyond that. See, this is a good technique. I highly recommend looking at your hand, asking yourself, while you're awake, am I dreaming? I actually have a version of that a little bit later. But what I'm talking about here is everything, how you're processing the world around you. Because more often than not, I hear cryptic interpretations of one's own dream symbols. So that's really, what does that say? That says, I don't understand myself, because that was your perception. Because when we look at this, taking into context even the telepathic aspect of dreaming, it's very much like the internet. We all have computers, some of us have Macs, some of us have PCs. We're all looking at the same server. However, our computers and our configurations are slightly different, so that website's going to be rendered a little bit different. How sometimes the font's really small, sometimes the pictures are really big, some people's screens are horrible. This is akin to all the different blocks that we hear other speakers talk about, including not being tuned in with your pineal gland. So all the meditations, all the clairvoyancy practices, all of this applies to the dream world because we're all employing the same functions. So when we're talking about lucid dreaming, we are actually talking about intuition on a basal level. So this is why I ask those who study with me to reflect on how they perceive their world on a basal level. And when I talk about this, sometimes I refer to it as conceptual reality. Stuart Swerdlow, for those of you who are not familiar with his work, he was actually one of the children in the Montauk experiment, like our speaker previously just talked about too. And they call it hyperspace. But either way, it's the language beyond verbal language, beyond language itself. So in other words, like one of the examples I tend to use, it just kind of jumped in there, so I go with it. It has to do with it. I use a chair. We have a chair, right? Now, chair in English, we know what that sound means, but somewhere else in the world, they have no freaking clue what that means, but they understand that that's a chair. Just like in any other galaxy in the universe, if they sit at rest, they have to what? Sit at rest. Those concepts comprise the context of the chair. So if now it's places in the dream world, okay? The context of the chair, sit and rest. So we have a dream that we come into a blank void and we see a chair. And we're like, I'm compelled to it, but I feel I have to do something else and everything's trying to tell me to sit down. I don't know what this means. Well, let's think about the concepts of a chair. It's the place to sit and rest. Even if you sit something else and rest on it, and you're wanting to do something else, as far as you recollect, your conscious mind is saying. So what your subconscious is relaying that signal to you is saying that you need to sit and rest. Or something that you're thinking about needs a rest. Or you need to, basically that's it. You need to sit down and do that. So these concepts interconnect everything due to those associations because we have rest there, which can, what I call, pivot into something else. And that depends on your association and the symbol of the chair itself, because that chair, depending if you see it like this, like one of these chairs, we have an association with these conferences. So it could very much be about information, spiritual understanding, but then if we see, oh no, like an electric chair, we know, whoa, hey, I'm not supposed to rest myself in that area, unless I feel like getting electrocuted. And some people are into that, I don't know, maybe. But either way, ask yourself what these objects mean. Objects in your life, everyday objects in your life, ask yourself what they mean to you. Like, you know you have a cell phone. Fine, you have a cell phone. What do you use that for? What does it mean to you? You know, I know, especially in this common day, everyone feels attached to them. Well, what are those attachments that you're funneling through the cell phone? So some of those cryptic dreams that you could be having there could be having to do with something that let's say you talk to a friend on your cell phone a lot about some issues that they have. Now you might see the phone as a monster because you're tired of dealing with it. So these things like that, help define that imagery depending on the timing of what's going on, and when the realization is supposed to happen. Because this does tie into things like clairvoyancy and remote viewing, because ultimately all of these webs of associations and all the dreams that we have are precognitive in a sense when they are applied to our quote-unquote waking world, because they're comprised of thought forms that are formulated by what we understand are the probability of what's going to happen the next day or in the immediate future or the probable future. Because our subconscious doesn't deal with time in a linear fashion. It's very associative, it moves around. It's always happening now, is how the subconscious processes things. And I almost lost my water again. I've been losing my water all day somehow. I don't know how. So I suggest, if you're interested in either inducing more lucid dreams or expanding what you already do, use an object that you see all the time and start asking yourself, what does it mean to you, and what concepts comprise those meanings? And just do that. And you might be able to rattle off a list real quick, and you might discover some new things that you didn't think about before once you do this. And this is, once again, a process of self-discovery. So if we want to do any of the cool stuff, you want to do any of the precognitive dream stuff at will on purpose, which is different than a spontaneous experience. Same thing with past life regressions, future life regressions, inner life regressions. It all has to do with being able to move through time, knowing that associative web. So this is why I say it's very important to know how you perceive things in your future. So now, how to essentially put yourself in a stable state to be able to safely and healthily traverse the astral plane. This is a little technique that I've come up with. I do call it stretch your consciousness. Because what it has to do with is, well, some serious Jedi work. Because what you're doing is you're bridging your web of associations to a physical response relating to specific brain frequencies, actually. So what this does, and since it's serious Jedi work, I'm going to have to pull out my lightsaber for this one, courtesy of Dennis and Charlie, excellent Skywatchers extraordinaire. And as we see, what this does is allows you to now connect with your body. So those who may have experienced sleep paralysis, this will help you. This is actually gaining control of your body as your control of your intention while you're putting your body at rest. So, and actually, if I should do this right now, I'm going to run through these steps, and then we'll just do it real quick. See, the point of this meditation is to be quick. To be able to go down and up in those brainwave functions. Now, this is practical intuition, okay? You don't have to sit and even go like this to have to tune into something if it's happening right now. So, this is the point that you can stretch this out as long as you want, or you can do it short. So the first one, and we're going to use the lightsaber. Okay, and this is, yes. We need a bigger laser. Okay, so just relax your body, paying attention to every single part inside and out, and release any tension. Now I say inside and out because take note of all parts of your body, and I literally mean that. So everything from the top of your toe to the last hair on your head. And even if you can't kinesthetically feel something in your mind, in your imagination, in your visual cortex, create that perception. Most of us have seen anatomy enough to know that we have veins and bones and blood and muscles. Start feeling those and thinking relaxation. So you want to become more aware of parts of your body that you normally wouldn't think of. So, and just a real quick side note on this. This is when you go to a masseuse, things like that, they hit a part that you didn't even know had tension on, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God. And then some of those, especially the massage therapists in the room, will know all of a sudden people will be like, oh yeah, this reminded me of something way back in the day. That's body memory. That's your associative memory at work right there. So that's that web of associations being unwound a little bit. So take note of every part of your body. And lightsaber. Okay. Know that you will soon no longer feel your body as if you are comfortably floating in a relaxing pool of nothing. Okay, this is specifically worded okay, because of this web of associations, okay? So, and actually I normally have printouts, but I left my printouts and postcards at home, but my website, Who's Lucid What Now, I'll post all of this stuff on there to download too. So the floating aspect has to do with the common perceptions of astral flight, lucid dreams. A lot of people have had flying dreams while they're lucid dream, or they even just had a flying dream. We want to associate this with the concept of free movement, no attachment to gravity, as far as closely related to our practical life as possible. So floating, most of us have floated in water in some way, shape, or form. Now, most people don't have too much of a fear of floating, so I understand some people might have that fear, but I'm going with the majority on this one, sorry. But you can email me, I'll come up with another word for you. And the pull of nothing is to get one acclimated to the concept of the void, the thing when we close our eyes. That point, the void is like the light. It's analogous. They go back and forth. So you have the white void and you have the dark void. Both of them are completely clear constructs, so to speak, completely devoid of thought or form, by which you can create the form in a lucid dreaming situation or an astral projection target. So it creates a stable, comfortable, safe starting point for your astral travel. Now, this is one place I do differ from a lot of people who teach this, because of all the things like Stephen was talking about earlier, the Nazi scientists, the Nazi psychics, things like this. Okay, there's other things like that too, and you hear stuff like demons, pan-dimensional entities, and okay, those are real too. Enough. There's as much enough as it needs to be for you to take this into consideration. So I come from a point of practical speaking here, because a lot of these teachers, they give people the tools and then they send them out to the jungle with no protection. It's kind of like giving someone a machete and a backpack and saying, there you go, take on the Amazon. You have everything you need to know. It's like, no, I'm sorry, you don't. There are some things you need to be aware of. Now, at the same time, don't be afraid, because remember that nothingness, you can always return to it, okay? So whenever anything happens over there, you're comfortable with what amounts to be teleporting in the astral dimension back into your body, comfortably and safe and relaxing, instead of being stuck in a sleep paralysis mode or having everyone knows, and or anything else that just has a physical kind of reaction too. So you're building the specific instruction set within your body, you're hard coding in your body to be comfortable. So, and now the visual point, the point of the pineal gland. Turning your own light on. Now, creating the basal perception. Here we go. Number 3, allow your consciousness to become a static pool of observation, as if you are only a sphere of consciousness viewing reality like a TV or movie screen. TV and movie screen. Now, this is what we're mostly used to in relation to transmitting imagery, transmitting and receiving imagery on a basal level, and also has usually a safe perception of removal. So in other words, practically what happens for a lot of people is you start having a point develop. Usually, I don't know, for some reason it's about 3 feet out. I'm guessing it might have to do with our field or something. But you'll start seeing light there, and you'll start seeing imagery pop up sometimes. And now, that safe distance though, if you haven't addressed some of the internal issues, those mental, physical, emotional issues, this is where people get afraid, because it can turn into a nightmarish situation. However, when you have this already built in, relaxing pool of nothing, you're sitting there observing it. So in other words, you can choose now, instead of being sucked into this thing. Because that's another thing that does happen with some of these teachings. It's like you're not really sure where you're going, and there's no sort of spring point. And that's very important, because or else you can be forced to go to your own counselor all of a sudden, that you're not ready to deal with this emotional issue or this trauma yet, and now you're immersed in this dream, So this at least gives you a chance to consciously engage or not. So, that being said, let's do a quick version of this, because actually I'm not even keeping time at this point, so I have no idea what I'm doing on that. But so go ahead and get as comfortable as you want, and I'm going to add a little something in the middle of this. And actually what I'm going to do is, if you fall asleep, great, actually. This is specifically for this, because what you want to do is you want to put your body asleep. You actually want to elicit a sluggish response to your conscious actions to move your finger or your arm, something. I'm jumping ahead a little here, but this is what I'm going to be doing. So just get relaxed, and I'm going to go ahead and guide everyone as we relax our body so you have an idea of how to perceive that. And so let's go ahead and start by taking a deep breath in through our nose, and then out through the mouth. However fast or slow you want to go. Just and as you're doing this, conscious of your rhythm that you're doing with your breathing, now start to wiggle your toes a little bit. And as you're wiggling your toes, feel yourself letting go of any tension there. Start letting go any of that static that we build up with our shoes. Start feeling the cells on your skin, releasing those electrons into the earth. Start feeling the muscle underneath that, those toes as well. Just relaxing as they're moving and their hinges. And start to feel as if now this relaxation is turning into an almost warm liquid feeling that's relaxing you while you're doing this, as if you're moving your toes in relaxing warm water. And it's making you feel so relaxed as it's moving and up your ankles. You're feeling the little bones in there. All the space is now moving and unhinging, relaxing, letting go of any tension. Up your calves. You're feeling the tendons now. Allow them to not be as tight. To your knees, start feeling, release the tension in your kneecap. Do that. Think about that one. As the calm, cooling water is moving, warm, whatever you're feeling actually, don't let me direct you too much there. If you're feeling cool, do it. Warm, either way. Just feel good. Know that this is water that you can breathe in. It's magical astral water. So don't worry as it's moving now up to your abdomen, feeling your stomach relax, chest relaxing, feeling it now really soothing your shoulders just immensely. Oh, carry the burden so long up your neck. And now you realize you're now floating in a relaxing pool of nothing. The void, your yin to the white void of your yang. And while you're here, now we've visualized moving our appendages. Check and see how asleep your body actually is by seeing how fast you can just move one of your fingers or bring one of your arms up really quick. Just start feeling that response. If it takes you a little longer, that's good, actually. You want your body to be asleep. And at the same time, you want to stay connected. And what the purpose of this exercise is to keep yourself in that relaxing pool of nothing while maintaining that conscious awareness that your body is asleep and your mind is awake. And stretching that consciousness is done by measuring the response from your body. And if it's at will on purpose, and you know that there is a time latency, that's perfect. That's you getting to know your body way better. And if you know that you can put your body in that relaxed state, you can do that any time, including anything that stresses you out. You're repeating this technique as fast or as slow as needed, and remembering, right now, remember the feeling of relaxation. Remember what it feels like. What concepts comprise that relaxation? What makes you feel relaxed? Is there any good memories that come back to you while this is happening? Take note of those. And since time is of the essence, and it is linear here, it's not quite the astral, I'm going to go ahead and bring it back into the body, because this can be an interesting experience sometimes. So what we're going to do is now, with still conscious of your breathing, now start to feel your chest move. Start feeling the vital energy from the air radiating out in your lungs to the appendages of your arms. Start feeling your arms again. You're starting to get movement, quick movement back, specific intentional movement back. Moving down the legs, moving our knees a little bit, wiggle the feet, tap your feet on the ground. That's actually a great grounding technique that a lot of people don't talk about. Stamp your foot on the ground. Discharge those electrons. And actually that does translate into a great wake-up technique, quote-unquote, in the astrals, is with grounding intention, stamping. Works awesome. And symbolically, that also means standing your ground. So should you ever even encounter one of your own nightmares, you can always just stand your ground in the astrals and you'll see that context change. Okay, I'm going to wait till at least more people wake up. And this is good. And if anyone needs a nudge, feel free to nudge through your neighbor if the snoring gets too obnoxious. But I'll go ahead and start this one up because this is an important one and it's long. This is about dream journaling because right now you just had a guided imagery experience and maybe even partial astral projection or out-of-body experience if you're just floating inside your body. And that's specifically what that technique is. You're learning to astral project into where you believe your consciousness is located right here and now, or sometimes as I call a temporal locality, a place in space-time in a nonlinear fashion. So, and as that awareness, bringing that back and forth, as I know that there's very esteemed hypnotherapists and right here front row, and I know there's many else in here, and they'll know that being able to pull information back from these altered states isn't usually the easiest thing to do. That's why usually there's a recording or you have the facilitator there helping with this. So, and we're specifically training this. And so this is where the dream journal comes in. And I have my lightsaber. Why am I not using my lightsaber? I mean, it's amazing. Yes! Okay. How to dream journal. This is important because everyone says, oh, it's dream journaling is so important, but they'll tell you how to do it. So there's some techniques I've worked on over the years. I have volumes and stacks, especially at one point for someone who's doing it at a serious level. You're going to have multiple dream experiences in one night. I mean, my nights can vary anywhere between a couple of unique contextual experiences to 20, 30 something sometimes. So either way, dream journaling is very important. Say it right there. But allows us to see patterns that arise in our day and see what kind of reoccurring symbols or themes that may happen in our dreams. This allows us to use our dream journal as a powerful tool of transformation and understanding. In some cases, they can turn a simple dream into an astounding precognitive hit. This is so true. Most of our precognitive information seems to come in flashes because you get one of those little temporal localities of a probable timeline. And then it might be something that we're not expecting, so we kind of dismiss it. I mean, one of my while indexing my dream journal, I can talk about that later, going back and counting those different themes that are coming back up, I saw before Governor Palin resigned in Alaska, I had this dream of her standing at the podium resigning, and I wrote down, Palin resigns. And so while I'm flipping through my dream journal, like about a month or so after, I'm like, oh, I totally forgot I wrote that and saw that. Because it was in one of those 20-something experience nights. And so if we're talking about dipping back and forth between these bandwidths of perception, you're going to need a tool. So my suggestion is getting a pen and lineless notebook or journal. And the reason why is so you have enough room to comfortably write, but then also to sketch and draw without obstruction and without actually even that own association, because sometimes what happens is you'll get adept at doing that up and down through consciousness, and those lines can sometimes mess up your information that you're going to write down because of the associations of lines, because you're hovering in and out of this hypnagogic kind of state. And so those things can divert that information. It's just because you have to perceive something. It's not even the fact that they're there. It's just the introduction of new information that could now bump that out. So lineless paper. And write down the date. And this is for lucid dreaming in particular. So if you're trying to specifically at will induce a dream and measure your success, write down the date and your dream intention every night. Now, what I recommend for those who aren't necessarily going out to explore, Astralville, as I call it sometimes here at Camp Human, the dream intention I suggest is to feel vital and healthy when you wake up. It's a simple intention to set. It's always beneficial, and we always want to wake up healthy and vital. So you'd be amazed how many times we set ourselves up to feel like crap, especially like in events where we get little sleep. If we're like, oh, I know I'm going to be ragged tomorrow, it's like, no, I know I'm going to get exactly what I need. I'm going to wake up vital and healthy. And this also works into with that exercise in terms of those. I've heard this too in terms of getting tired from having too many dreams. Well, that's a perception in your mind because your body is laying there sleeping. So what's actually tired? That tells you something. That tells you you're tiring yourself of thinking too much, more than likely. That's a symbol itself, because everything is a symbol. So I do agree with Jungian interpretation of dreams, because it is very spiritual, actually. Because it actually is talking that we all are one and it's all a reflection. And at the same time, there is the external aspect of telepathic information exchange, but then that gets into the whole namaste, I honor the divine reflection in you and me, and we're all one, we're all part of one consciousness. So one way or another, those symbols actually do apply, and that's why the ancient shamans pretty much applied, the animals coming in, the day, in the context of that, because this is a dream, this is another hologram, this is another reality, a chain of causality, shall I say, that defines this dimension that we're collectively experiencing. So, excuse me. And find a place where you can easily reachable. Very important. Okay. Wherever is the quickest and easy to grab, because even movement can cause memories to go. So you want to move as little as possible. And I guess there is one pen that actually does write upside down that I found. It's at Staples. It's kind of expensive for a pen. It's like an astronaut pen or something. But that actually, if you can actually get your pen like this sometimes, it will help, because you can kind of you can sit there with your eyes closed and just be relaxed, be in that pool of nothing, or just reach over with that slower response that you already know and they're stable, and then it's right here, I'm going to write this. And the write this part, what I suggest in terms of journaling, if you don't want to sit there and say, I walked through this forest, it had lots of flowers and pretty hummingbirds, and then I turned up. You don't want to write all that stuff. Make a name for your dream. Say, the forest dream with hummingbirds. Something that you're going to remember, though. Something that you know you're going to remember that will open all that. That's, in a sense, you can call that time compression, because you're actually crunching down this experience that has some kind of duration into this little concept, once again. So either way, and it's a pneumatic tool, essentially. And that opens all those associative memories. So you're not sitting there trying to store everything like a hard drive. So you have this sort of index database that you can just go. And that's literally what you're doing. You're creating a database of your dreams. And so I know how often do people in here dream regularly? How many people in here dream regularly and remember? Okay, great. Okay, so the rest of you who don't, okay, what I suggest is when you wake up, as I put here, one of the things is write down how you feel in the morning if you didn't dream. I kind of did that in reverse, Yoda speak. But, either way, write down how you feel. And the reason why I say feeling, kinesthetic perception, having to do with a gestalt kind of perception of your environment. Once again, we're getting right to the web of associations. And so write that down. So if you wake up feeling blah all the time in between these other dreams, then you at least can go back and say, wow, I felt so bad in the morning. What was going on at that time? Like, oh yeah, that's right. I was worrying about my rent and blah, blah, blah. So in the very least, it gives you something to weigh and measure, because that stress translates into blocks. So you had people who said they feel their blocks sometimes from dreams. It has to do with the stress, usually. Some kind of stress or associative trauma or inhibitive belief about dreaming itself, because I hear it all the time, I just can't lucid dream, or I just don't dream. It's like just thinking that is reinforcing that instruction set in your body. So it's that disconnect that connection that we're just making with that technique, that's literally just disconnecting it. You're just automatically saying, nope, doesn't happen. So don't do that, because we dream all the time. We dream every night. Science has proven our brains are going crazy in REM. And how Steve was talking about, I mean, think about how that translates on a physical level in terms of sine waves, in terms of EMF, and all those biochemical reactions. Those are very specific signatures. So everyone's doing this anyways. It's the recall. And so this is what this comes down to. Because you can be as conscious and lucid, and I've had experiences. Now, why I say I grew up basically being a conscious dreamer. I never had a divide between the worlds. I didn't realize there was one. And so even that, knowing that, you still don't remember everything all the time, especially if you don't try to, or if you think you got it. That's like the worst one. That's the worst. Oh no, I dream all the time. I can remember them. It's like really? Really, you can? Okay. Well, tell me a little more about this one. Oh, well, I went this way. There were some aliens in it. Yeah, exactly. Even if it's profound enough to even see aliens in it, you'll see how quickly people forget if they don't write it down, because we have so much information that we're processing. And depending, getting into the more spiritual side, because sometimes spiritually it comes down to your path. You might not be ready to see that, or you're not. It's not time for you to see. Actually, is really what it kind of comes down to, because we're always ready for what we experience. So either way, that's there. And so with this, with the dream journaling, this is an important tool, because this actually does increase your recall on the fly too, so to speak, dynamically. Because while you're doing this, it's a form of a affirmation actually. So you're also creating a consciousness loop, or subconscious programming, shall I say, to actively include the dream world into this world, which is very important. Because what happens every night, no matter who you are, your experiences are re-amalgamated into your long-term memory, which is all part of that associative processing in the visualization centers of our brain. So the more you inject the astral world into this conscious world, that is going to be part of that recycling program, so to speak. So you're literally bridging the dimensions by doing that, by actively engaging the dream world into this world. So by re-examining things that are common in our lives and asking those concepts mean to us, you're bridging those dimensions of association and awareness. So that's why dream journaling is so very important indeed. And so the lucid dreaming aspect itself. More Jedi work, more lightsaber. So the reality check. This is we hear this is the hand one. Am I awake? Am I dreaming? So here's this version. The concept of doing a reality check is a form of grounding. Very important form of grounding. This can be done in a multitude of ways, and the most important time to do this is during your waking day. Ask yourself, am I dreaming? Now, this is a glib version, and I just put it like this so I can elaborate during these talks, is, am I dreaming? That's a common thing, but take it a step further. Okay, like right now, ask yourself, am I dreaming? And how do I know I am not? What would be different in the dream? What would I do different if this was a dream? That's a big one. What would I do different if this is a dream? Would there be anything different? By just asking yourself these questions, what this translates to, when it gets recycled once again to our long-term memory, that actually is deferring to the conscious mind, saying we need a choice here. The subconscious isn't the decider. It's going to run on its programming. The body memory is going to run on its programming. So what it's saying, your programming is now to defer to the conscious mind. And then from there, you can defer to the higher self, God, whatever you want to do. But either way, you're putting that instruction set into your dreams, or into your day to be turned into your dream symbols. And so if the dream symbol itself is linked with lucidity, and if you start linking more of your symbols to dream lucidity, pretty much you're walking in the dream right now. Once again, we're talking shaman speak here. The shaman will say, it's all a dream. Everything is symbolic and it all has meaning. And it does. So, very important. So, this is why I kind of elaborated right here already about spots, sort out what's different. And make it more of a conscious routine in your day-to-day life. What am I dreaming? Am I awake? Ask both of those questions. What would be the difference? Why would there be a difference? Because this gets into your own personal growth. What do you feel you need to express is what actually that question is. So when we translate that into the dream, because we just feel, oh, I can only do this in the dream, like fly. What does it mean to fly? What does it mean to you to fly here? Maybe that means be a musician. Maybe that means be an artist. Maybe that means have a family, and you're denying it, whatever it may be. And that's part of the manifestation of your dreams, how to make your dreams come true, practically. I'm not talking about fantasy. I hear that so much in this arena. Make your dreams come true, and it usually means like your desires. Well, you know what? I question your desires. and you should question them and why you want that. Because that's going to tell you why you're here, what your soul is actually reflecting. And then if you want, you can choose to expand that or just chase the desire, which might be what you need to do. But either way, we should know why we're doing that. So, very important, because once again, we are talking about our own cognitive associations. Now, I kind of talked about this too. Your dream symbols are your friends, even the nasty, scaring ones. Doesn't matter. You are everything that you're seeing, based on that concept of us as computers that are connected to the psychic internet. Internal communication going on there that is now branching out to other apparatuses to which they can choose to engage or not. And also, this is also how we feel the influence of others, for that matter. Having dreams about other people, things like that. Now, the only reason why those are there is because of our choices, what we have in our lives, and this gets back to what I was saying in the beginning of what do these things in your life mean to you, which comprise your symbols. So remember that, and remember to build your symbols this way, by understanding how these different things and people in your life intersect conceptually. What's calming, what's stressful, what's happy, what's sad. And you can see those intersections, and then you might start remembering dreams that you had and that might have been enigmatic to you, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, that makes so much more sense now because I'm starting to see these concepts overline. And I remember I had this issue with that, or I didn't ever speak my mind about this, and it'll start to clear up your own imagery, because the ultimate goal we should have isn't to necessarily have to consult with someone on understanding our own dreams if it's an internalization, because this actually does help calibrate in relation to telepathic information exchange if you know your symbols, because then all of a sudden an enigmatic symbol comes in that you have no idea, and you know that you feel X amount, you feel this way about pizza, let's say. And then all of a sudden, like say you don't like it, and then all of a sudden you're in front of you, you have this pizza from a particular, Luigi's pizza place that you never went to before. And you're like, huh, that's interesting. I don't know why that's there. And then you know you're going to go talk to your friend later when you wake up and you meet them, and they're like, hey, I just found this great Italian place. It's called Luigi's. and so that symbol is them. That symbol is actually is actually their influence being felt by you, processed through your filters. We're like, oh man, Italian right now? I just had Italian yesterday, you know? So that's kind of like, oh, and you don't like pizza, so that's why I don't like Italian, but you don't necessarily not like Italian, you just don't feel like pizza, and you just had, you know, the penne yesterday, and you're like, I don't want penne again today, you know, I have the white sauce, I guess I can do the red, but either way, that's my point. It helps you understand what is actually you and what's actually someone else, you know, really, and that works for stress too. So like, you know, that phone, like I was saying, all of a sudden the phone, it's not like, oh my God, the phone's this horrid thing. It's like now you're seeing your friend and all their crap, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm just stressing way too much of it. It gets specific, at will, intentional, clearly decipherable, and practical, and you know, and that's the big thing, practical, because I think too much the dreams have been associated with desires and fantasies, and that's just not true. So it's part of them, and hopefully, you know, those are true enough to manifest. So, but either way, I believe this is the end of my presentation. So I'm thanking you. What are we like on time? What are we like on time right now? Keep going? Okay, well, does anyone have any questions, actually?
First of all, I agree with you about the no lines on paper. You need it to be blank. You got to have it blank. But as you're trying to remember things, jot things down, just one word, little associations, whether they're out of order or not. But what I do is I'll just write them down out of order. But later, once you get everything down and you reconnect everything, then you just number everything.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 in the order. And I don't know why this matters to me, but I always sort of know or believe where north and south is in my dreams. Does that mean anything to you? Or?
Well, think about the symbolic meaning of north and south. I mean, that's like you can, and forward and backwards, up, down. It gives you a relative direction or heading. You know, it gives you your bearings of navigation. You know what I mean? The North Star, right? Use. And so that's that web of association on a conceptual level manifesting as your imagery for how you perceive north and south or how you've been taught it. And just a quick bridge off of the numbering, that's a good idea because what this also does is something I call temporal awareness, okay, which means like you're aware of time. Now that helps formulate a linear time. And this applies to knowing when last time I was in this collective reality we call the waking world, I was in my bed. Anything else that happens afterwards until I get out of this physically in this world is a dream. So having anything in between there, so that helps build that line, so to speak, of I'm asleep, I'm awake, dream, which it helps increase the lucidity aspect because it interjects that conscious decision once again. So that's part of the indexing. I can do probably a whole workshop on indexing your dream journal, because have techniques on that. One quick one real fast I suggest is once you have a bunch of dreams cataloged, start highlighting certain common themes that you're seeing. Start giving them a color, like say you do yellow for things that relate to happy, you can do red for sad or blue, whatever, it doesn't matter, just start doing that. Because then what ends up happening is, even if you don't go back and count all of those, you can quickly flip through it, and you're literally seeing like a flash of your emotional state, and your emotional mind, body, spiritual state, just in this color, because you know all those associations. You're like, wow, I was really feeling happy that time. What was going on then? Let me go back and see what happened there. Because I'm not quite that right now. So these are once again tools of self-discovery that help us explore the astral world. So I don't. Go ahead.
Because for me, it's very rare to dream lucidity, but when I do, I notice because you can't distinguish between the sleeping and awake, but that period is so short you just immediately almost go out of it, how would you be able to extend it?
This gets into the grounding, like I was saying, recognizing that your body is laying there, and that, okay, and if you have to wake up and say like, oh, I still have 3 more hours of sleep, it's like that's X amount of time you can induce more lucidity, or even just grounding on that side, so to speak. Remember how I gave you that thing? Because doing that, symbolizing the grounding, which in that state is connection to the body, helps that awareness. And this gets into what, when you hear bilocation, you'll be aware that you're out of body, experiencing something else, but then you realize there's a body laying there at the same time, and you're perceiving and hearing through all of them, both of them at the same time. That's how you get into that. And that's how you would start extending that lucidity time, because what's happening more than likely, I'm not saying there's a rule of thumb every time, but it's there is some kind of mental, physical, or emotional block that's now in the body memory, that now in that instruction set comes up to have that awareness of how that dimensional perception relates to that apparatus in your bed. There's a disconnect. So you have to bridge that, and so those are the techniques I was talking about before. So, yes. Anyone else? Sam?
Yeah, Jerry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just a comment, kind of an addition. I was recording a few months ago, David Wilcock had given a workshop on how to get in touch with your higher self, that sort of thing. And it brought to mind, one thing he said was, you've kind of said this, but he said when you're waking up from a dream, usually early morning, whatever you do, he said don't use an alarm clock, and don't just jump out of bed right away, because you're probably in a half dreamy state still, and that's when you'll probably remember what you were just dreaming about. He said to stay in that state, and that kind of relates to what you're getting at too. So I just thought I'd remind you that.
Once you get adept at dream recall, you can figure out ways to just jump up, and that is done by creating specific associative memory relating to, say, your body movement. When I am jumping up to remember the dream. So that becomes part of the dream itself too. But you have to consciously do that. That's something you tend to have to work at, but that is a little tip, because we can't always just lay there forever to try to soak up all the information. Sometimes we do have to get up with an alarm clock, and we did just have a profound dream, and we have to just get up. So, and if you can't write it down because you have to go, so link that memory, link that associative memory to the actual motor function that you're doing. So then that way you're more likely to stimulate that memory too, if you happen to be like, okay, I move my finger like this, like I move my finger like that, and then all of a sudden during the day you're like, your fingers kind of goes like that, and you're like, why did I do that? Oh, dream! It's right, I gotta write that down. Things like that. So, but, oh, yeah, what was I saying?
You said that things are real, but however, is it true that they can't hurt you in a dream?
It's very true, yeah. It's
big monster is there, but let's face it,
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's very true. I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because this is true. When we go on our soul path, and if we're meant to do something, there's nothing that can stop us. And how you hear this commonly about operating from your heart, that's very true. And it goes beyond any kind of metaphysical attachments, really, because as we know, the heart isn't just a simple pumping apparatus. We've seen medical situations where you have memory actually being transferred into another person. So that tells you a lot. And if you think about this scientifically, once again, we have that chamber in the center. No one's really sure what that is. And that's a vortex, the center of the vortex. It's like our 0-point connection, more than our brain. Actually has a stronger field that reaches out. So when we go into that place, including in the astral, if we have an astral body and you can perceive that heart, that's an infinite glow. There's nothing that can extinguish that. No reptilians, no grays, no Pleiadians, no stupid Illuminati Nazi motherfuckers. None of that stuff. They can't touch you. That's why you heard me in the back say, they suck. And that's what I'm saying now live. I'm just like, you can't make those big, bold statements without expecting something. I don't expect nothing because, I'm in touch with that divine light. I didn't know that that's what it was called. I just knew that I had to do this to survive, to go into that place of purity, love, understanding, acceptance, that all of this is just an experience. It's a game. It's a movie that we're writing and directing to write ourselves as the coolest character we can possibly imagine, because our imagination is the only limitation that's in front of us. So yeah, if you put that boundary in front of you, oh, those demons are going to get you, oh, those graves are going to get you, those Nazis are going to get you, they're going to. They're going to. They're going to find that weakness in your mind. And that translates something to probably a self-worth issue, self-esteem issue, that you feel diminished somewhere in your waking life. So that's the only way they get you. And it's, in that sense, it's you. It's your own perceptions of yourself, your own denigrative perceptions of yourself that are doing it, not them. They're just facilitating what you're saying. So in your subconscious instruction set, you're saying, I'm not this, I'm going to lose to that, or they're too big, they're too powerful, they're too old, whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, if you're supposed to be there, yeah, you can put your finger in the barrel of that gun, and it's going to stop. And it's not you that stopped the bullet. That's an important thing too. That's a collective decision of everyone who's around or who will be affected by it spiritually someplace outside of time, who's observing this. Because outside of this linear time, outside of this dimension, once we move on, that's where those decisions are being made. So yes, you can change your stars, you can change your destiny. Liaison with your higher self, getting back to the question of David Wilcock. Because yeah, we're all fractions of the all everything. There's a portion of us that's sitting right there next to God, 0 point, everything you want to say. And there's no, it's just right there. So get in touch with that, because that will keep you safe, or that will tell you even maybe why you experienced that conflict that resulted in a sickness or something like that. Why did you have to experience that? That'll tell you, and it won't be like there will be no victim, their mentality, there'll be nothing like that. And you'll overcome it. Or you'll cross over, in which case you go home. So it's like, what are you worried about? And like Obi-Wan said, especially in this arena, honestly, everyone in here, like, yeah, don't be worried about no NSA, CIA, Black Ops people. It's like Obi-Wan said, they strike you down, they make you more powerful than they can possibly imagine. Because now you have the perception you do, you'll be able to traverse the multiverse around them in a way that they can't do with their contraptions. And that's what they do. I'm just getting into some of the other whistleblowers that they're saying, because they do have this stuff. They do consciously look at your thoughts, which you can say is astral realm, the thought realms, and they do try to manipulate it. And at one point, I'm sure I'll get into this more, because I do have some experience in that. So Edwards, I'm glad Stephen was talking about Edwards, because I felt like I was the only person saying, please look at Edwards Air Force Base. Because a lot of this research apparently goes there and actually is attached to Area 51, Dulce, all these other things. So, but yeah, so when you're asking about that, yeah, I've seen the darkest of the dark, absolutely, been through it. I wish I didn't. For a long time, I wished I made all this up, but apparently I didn't. And so, it's true enough. But that's how I know that you go into that heart. There's nothing that can touch you. You can make all of them run away from you and just say, "Come here, I want to love you," while you have a little white light on the end of your finger, and they'll run from it. Like scared little kittens. So these big bad blood-bathing reptilians. It's like, hey, come here, I just want to hug you. Watch it, try to hug them. Watch what happen. I'm serious. but yeah. So I don't know. Any more questions? Anything? Cool. All right. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure and honor.
It's a lot of information compressed into a relatively short amount of time, and it's definitely appreciated. Thank you, Jerry. Okay, so this concludes the second day of the Alchemy Event 2012. It was great seeing you all, talking to you, having you here, sharing in this. So I hope to see, hopefully, all of you tomorrow, really. At least the ones who can make it. So once again, Tommy from Camelot wishes you a good night, and sleep well, and dream well. Lucid.